don't bow to the system, they don't control my rhythm. I ask God for wisdom, they're out persecuting, I'm out producing music.
Hey everybody, it's Marco Amaya on the Patriot Torch, and I wanted to tackle the subject of borders and the purpose of borders and Trump's detention centers that the Democrats are calling concentration camps. First of all, if we're being invaded by hundreds of thousands of illegals that are not supposed to be here, and that's why they're called illegal, what are we supposed to do with them? You're just going to let them roam around the streets? Unvetted, unchecked, you don't know who they are, what crimes they've committed, if they have drugs, if they're human trafficking, diseases. We're just going to let them roam around the streets and have a hot dog at Sonic and have a cheeseburger at Burger King and just, show up at court whenever it's time. But that never happens, right? They never show up. So where are we supposed to put them? We have to put them somewhere, don't we? We have to put them in detention centers where we can make sure that we're keeping Americans safe from illegals, that we don't know who they are, right? If you have a house, right, that has all the doors unlocked, and all of a sudden you have people just walking in, just saying, oh yeah, we live here now. You're going to accept that? You're just going to let, this random homeless person just walk into my house sleeping on my bed. You're going to be like, get out. You don't belong here, right? That's what you would say if it happened to your house. Oh, but if it happens to America, oh my God, it's racist. You can't believe you want to kick them out. They're illegal. You're supposed to deport illegals. They're not supposed to be here. That's why when we have illegal immigration, we have that for a reason. Because that makes it hard to get in. That's the whole purpose of legal immigration, so that we get the best from other countries because they work hard to get here. Do you understand that? The border is to protect our country from an invasion. That's what the whole point of a border of every nation ever was. That's the whole purpose of a nation and a border, is so that we won't get invaded by a foreign land, by foreign people. So that we can have a country, so that a country can exist with a system of laws. And if we don't follow laws, and we think illegals are okay and it's not bad, and we can just let it happen, that means you don't respect American laws. And if we don't respect American laws, then there's no border, there's no laws, it's chaos, it's anarchy. We can't listen to some laws and not listen to others. It has to be, there's no logic there, especially because illegals are dangerous. Do you understand how that happens? If you don't know what they're doing or where they came from, they could be the nicest, best people on the planet, or they could be a criminal. You don't know. You don't know. That's the whole point of the detention center, and it's not a concentration camp. It's not Nazi Germany. Illegals aren't getting gassed to death. They're not getting cooked in an oven by Trump. That's not happening. We're actually being nice to them and saying you don't have to go home to the country that sucks because you came here because it's the best country in the world. We don't want you to have to go home to some place that sucks. Obviously. That's the whole reason why they came here, because this country's awesome. Right? It's the best country that ever existed so far in recorded history in terms of freedoms and what we've been able to accomplish. Now, they're obviously not coming from climate change. They're not like AOC is saying, they're not in El Salvador and Honduras just sitting on their porch and the wave came through and apparently, that wave was just half a centimeter taller than yesterday. That means the ocean's rising, we're going to die. They're not thinking like that because they're not insane, okay? It's not because too many it's not because too many cows farted that they're trying to get here. It's not because I was breathing too much and I breathed out too much carbon dioxide, okay? Carbon dioxide is good for plants. That's why greenhouses use carbon dioxide to help plants grow. Look it up. That's not destroying the planet. Their countries that they're escaping from are collapsing, and they're terrible, and their governments aren't good, and they're not efficient enough to be able to live a good life. That's why they're coming here by the hundreds of thousands per year, meaning millions in a matter of just a few years. right? So when this happens, we have to have a border to protect it, to protect us from being invaded by people. That doesn't mean that I don't like them or I don't care about them, but we have to have a country, and we can't be invaded, just like any other country doesn't want to get invaded, okay? And so this is the whole purpose. And the Democrats, they are saying they don't care about limited immigration. They don't care. All they want is unlimited immigration, open borders, and they want to help illegals get free stuff from America by getting health care and making Americans slaves to illegals and paying for everything for them. They basically want us to wipe their ass once they cross the border immediately. We're supposed to go down there and wipe an illegal's ass. That doesn't make sense. They're not supposed to be here. And if these Democrats, if you hate these camps so much, these so-called detention centers so much, why don't you just build a wall so that we wouldn't have to have these detention centers? We wouldn't have to have it all, and to keep these illegals away from American citizens because they're illegally crossing. We wouldn't have to keep them in these detention centers if you would have just built a wall that prevented them from crossing. It would have prevented them from having to desperately try to go across dangerous terrain and dying and starving and being raped by gangs on their way here in Mexico. Or killed even sometimes, right? If there was a wall and they knew they couldn't come in, they wouldn't go. They wouldn't go, and they wouldn't risk their lives and their children's lives. And now the Democrats are crying, or they're really mad at Trump because the children are crying because they're so scared that because the children of illegals, they're crying because they're worried their parents are going to get deported. And they're mad at Trump. It's the parents' responsibility as to why the children are crying. If they came in here illegally, against the law, it's the parents' fault for putting that child in that situation. You have to get your papers and come in legally, like my parents did. That's just the way it is, right? If you go against the law, it's your fault. It's not Trump's fault that we have to follow the law, that I have to follow the law. It's the way the system works. That's why we have a country. That's why we have the most freedoms in the entire world. Because we fight to defend it. But if we let laws be broken and not care about it, then that means we have no laws. Okay? So this is what I'm saying. We have to care about and this whole propaganda from the Democrats are total lies about how we need to help illegals and making it easier to come in and making it easier to be a citizen. You realize that if you keep making it easier to be a citizen, eventually anybody can be a citizen. You know what that means? That means your country just got invaded. Because then anyone can come in, and at any number. That's never been like that in the history of the United States. That's why we exist. And we have to keep it that way. And we have to make sure it's limited immigration, so that we're not invaded by a bunch of people that speak a different language. Because if that happens, if all the Mexicans decided one day they want to move in and we have unlimited immigration, we wouldn't be able to stop that from happening. That means we would turn into Mexico because of how much people just came in. Or if everyone in Africa decided to come in, or a bunch of millions of people came in at once, we would have to accept them. That means we would turn into Africa. Do you understand that? And they're not going to just come in and put on their study glasses and learn about the Constitution. All of a sudden they're a patriotic American. That doesn't happen. They come in with their culture, with their beliefs that they grew up with, that's instilled into them, and their ideas and their social values and their religions and their system of government. They bring it in here. Do you understand that? That's why it's important to have a few come in at a time, so that they work hard to just get here, to assimilate, to get along. If there's a million Mexicans at once, and they all live in their own little separate countries within the U.S., with a little community where everything's in Spanish, and they can't even communicate with other Americans, what do you think's going to happen? They're not assimilating. They're surrounded by people that believe what they believe and see what they see, and they watch the same old programs in Spanish that they saw in the country they came from. So they're living in Mexico here. They're not assimilating. That's the problem with illegal immigration. There's also drug trafficking, human trafficking, cheap labor that's coming through. Diseases like tuberculosis. There was even people from the Congo that came in recently and that came from a Ebola breakout. So there's a potential for now to Ebola to come in because of the Democrat policies of open borders. This is how a country is destroyed. Okay? And the thing is, This whole idea, where does this whole idea of open borders come from? Why is this whole, they paint it as this utopian picture of the world, like there's not supposed to be any countries and any borders. That's complete, like, ridiculous lies, and it doesn't make any sense. That's impossible, because if you have no country, if there's a piece of land that's not inhabited or controlled by anybody, somebody comes in and starts controlling it. That's what happens. That's why we have countries, okay? So that we can protect ourselves and our freedoms from other foreign lands that want to dominate us. And that goes for every country that has their own way of living, right? So the point of the open borders is not so that there's going to be this utopian dream. No, it's because there's globalist bankers and globalist internationalist corporations and organizations like the Bilderbergs and Rothschilds and all these different people, J.P. Morgans, these types of folks, that want to create and have built a structure to create world government. And in order to create world government, they need to have all these countries collapse. Every country that is in competition to world government. So obviously, the Democrats want to use the illegals to come in, not for their agenda, because they're going to get more votes. Because obviously, if they're fighting for illegals by helping them get citizenship for free and healthcare, and the illegals are a lot of them are getting the same leftist propaganda from their countries that they're coming from, they're going to come in and think the Democrats are their friend. So they're going to vote for the Democrats, okay? Meanwhile, the Democrats are actually getting rid of their liberties at the same time, because they're trying to get rid of Second Amendment, First Amendment, all this stuff. They're fighting against it. The Democrats, their whole idea of what their policies are is total socialism. Everything's for free, and you have to pay for it, because taxpayers are paying for all this free stuff, right? So that means the government has to control everything, because they have to make everything government owned, and healthcare has to be provided by the government for free. That means they're creating monopoly where the government controls the whole thing. Okay? So that's called socialism. Socialism is how you dominate countries. If you're a super rich mega billionaire, I'm not talking about the average rich person, I'm talking about the global international bankers. They want to control the world through socialism, because socialism creates an executive branch only that allows you to easily control a country through one person or a very few people. Because in a socialism, there's just the executive branch of the government that controls everything in the economy, all the laws, everything. It's a dictatorship, basically communism. That's what it is. Socialism leads to communism. If you can turn a country into socialism, and then you control the leader of that country, then you control the whole country. But in America, we have a limited government system, a republic that has a separation of powers, not only federally in 3 branches, but also we have local and state governments, right? And systems. So America is very difficult to control if you're a foreign power that wants to control this country, because you have to control every little piece of the puzzle to control the whole thing. You can't just control the president and control everything. So that's why they hate this country, and that's why they're promoting socialism through the Democrat Party, just the same way they're doing it in Europe. That's why they have the European Union, because the European Union is an attempt for the beginning of a world government, where all the European nations have their own fake puppet presidents that don't actually do anything. They can't. There's a European Commission that's above the European Union, that's unelected, just like the Federal Reserve is unelected. Unelected bureaucrats that come from banks and other things that are controlling and making laws for the whole enchilada there. And they don't have really much say over it. That's why England has been trying to get out of that Brexit for so long. Even though the people voted for it, they're not actually getting it, because they don't actually get to have anything, because they're controlled by a foreign power that controls them through the European Union. They want America to be part of that union so that they can control America too. That's what's going on, okay? That's what the whole open borders thing is all about, so that there is no country, so that the world government can come in and take over everything. That's why borders are important, so that we can protect our laws and our freedoms from being overridden by some foreign person that decides they want to control the whole thing, okay? That's essentially what's going on. But I wanted to break that down from the basics of civilization all the way up to where we are now, where there's a globalist power structure that's trying to be built over every country. And they benefit from socialism and benefit from open borders. So thanks for listening. This is Marco Maya, and I'll see you in the next one.